Check the mic and make sure it sound right.
All right, I'm back here with Coach Walters, head coach at Lincoln Memorial. He's still got his University of Charleston mug in his hand. Yep, he's going to carry that around forever. Shout out Matt Stanton.
Mad respect, Matt. This thing's been all over the USA.
It's like, where's Waldo? So Coach, we kind of ended our first segment talking about a dear friend of mine, Brandon Simmons. He ended up becoming a top 10 doubles player nationally at Division II, and arguably the toughest conference in the country, maybe the toughest region. How did he work his way into becoming that kind of player? Especially interesting because he wasn't even in your singles lineup at the time. How does something like that occur? And is that a testament to kind of how your guys trained and to your culture? And personally for him, how did he make that journey or make that growth from your end?
Brandon's case is pretty similar to a lot of guys that end up in a successful program. Once you're ranked, you get attention from players that are on the periphery, where normally you have to maybe go recruit them. Now they start to find you, and just the connection with Dave and West Virginia Wesleyan and Barton goes way back. They had played us several times even before I had gotten there. Never gotten a point off Barton, but until Brandon got there. So we ran a tournament in the spring. It was a really tough tournament. We'd bring 16 or so teams in from all over the North and South, because at the time, rankings were largely based upon inter-regional play. Brandon got down there and saw the facilities and saw the school, and he was just ready for a bigger challenge. I didn't have any money for him, and he needed to make sure that it was a good academic fit. But he came in. I told him, look, we've got 10 guys at the time. We ended up with 14. I said, all these guys, Brandon, are better than you. I think no offense to you, but they're not more talented and they're not more athletic, but they warm up with 100 balls. That's just their warm up. They're going to stay out there and grind and bore you to death. You have to really dedicate yourself to being a singles player at this level. And he worked hard, man. I mean, it's Brandon. He loves physical fitness, and he fought through injuries, super tough. He just did what he had to do. But it was pretty clear that when you're a 10,000 ball grinder dude from South America, your volley's probably not going to be that tight, and your overhead not that explosive. And maybe the only time you come to the net is to shake hands and pick up balls. So Brandon really helped me right away have a doubles spot. And when you're getting repetitions in doubles, there's no more clutch play. Every serve is a clutch play. Every game you play, it's 5-all, 6-all, whatever. Those things are all huge repetitions. So it toughened him up and made him a better player. The issue was just he joined a young team. They were all freshmen, sophomores, and they were just good. I mean, we were a top 20 team, so there was not a lot of room to move up in that program. His level was coming up, but you just couldn't see it. But for every Brandon, there's a Thomas McIntosh that comes in and plays 13 or 14, loses a lot of close matches in the first opportunity. And then as the year goes on, you just see the growth and development and the dedication, and that person wills themselves into position to play. And even just beating, I might beat you in a challenge match, Alec, and, go to the coach and go, hey, I beat Alec. I'm 1 in 99 against him, but I beat him last time. I'm ready to play ahead of him. And the coach just laughed me off the court. You have to get those real pressure matches and repetitions in against that are meaningful and have a lot of impact in the team's goals before you really know what a person's, what kind of cut they are mentally. So Thomas came in at Wesleyan and worked his way up that lineup. And if you want to know how our challenge formats are in my program, I'll tell you. Is that something that you think would be helpful?
Absolutely, Coach. I'm extremely interested in your challenge match system. We talked a lot about, you having a lot of guys on a team. So how does the challenge match system work? Because I think people from the outside are like, Wesleyan's got 15, 16, 17 guys. How do you work your way up if you're the 17 guy? Things like that.
Keep in mind, we didn't have courts for 3 years, and we had, 15 players. So what you have to do is you have to be a good organizer, and you have to make sure that the guys all know exactly the format of what they're going to be doing. But when when each semester starts, we don't do challenge matches in the traditional sense. I give every player in the first week a tournament we play. For instance, if I bring in 5 freshmen, that first weekend they come back to school, they're going to play. Practice starts Friday with a match. It's tournament. We're going to play 2 singles and a doubles on Friday, 2 singles and a doubles on Saturday, and 1 singles and 1 doubles on Sunday. And they're going to play round robin. Every freshman will play each other, and they'll play all of the non-starters that are back from the year before. So that may be, 8, 10 guys in this mix. This is your opportunity to show me what you've done over the summer. This is my opportunity to see how you play anybody can. I play you 3 days in a row. I don't have to be good on the first day. I might beat you the last day and be fine. These guys all know they have 2 opportunities a year to make the lineup. So if it really matters to you, you start preparing for August 20th on the last day of college. May 31st, you go home and I want that spot. I want to get better. Freshmen are never an issue because they're playing all summer. They're super fired up.
They're excited. They want to come in and be impressive. More
tennis, yeah.
Yes.
The guys that are on the team in the lineup, they go home, man. They don't want to see a racket until August. It is what it is, I've been to Rio. I know what it looks like. Come on. So when these guys come in, there's always 1 or 2 kids that you've got your eye on that have the right work ethic and have the right physical stamina. They're gonna do the right things. They've listened to you in the coaching. They don't always have the nuts up here to get it done. But Thomas McIntosh, we mentioned him. You could just tell from day one he wanted it, and he was respectful. He would, while everybody else in the fall was off doing their own thing or maybe hitting a few balls around. When practice was over, Thomas was doing individual work on volleying and serving with things that we had done individually with him. I could see him 6 courts up working on that with whoever he was hitting with. He'd be a different person he'd be hitting with every night, but he was there every week. So 10 extra hours on the side, that shows me that he's got what it takes to develop to that next level. It doesn't scare him. Now can he sustain it for a whole year? So he finished 13 in our fall tournament. He lost to our number 6 player in 3 sets in the second round. But one thing you see about those matches, the way I do it is you may lose on Saturday because you're out of shape. I might kill you all the time. But if I can't move because I've been laying on the beach all summer and you've been running, I'm going to lose to you. And I'm going to be shaking my head like, oh my God, I'm out of the lineup. We had a guy go from number 3 all conference to number 7. Killed our team. Actually, it was number 8. The only reason he moved up is because the other guy didn't want to play singles. It was insane. It hurt our team, but that's the fall, and that's the wake-up call for everybody. Now, you don't get another opportunity until winter. And then what we do, the second weekend they come back in the spring. Oh, and we stick with that lineup all fall. If you're top 4, you go to ITA. If you're the next 4, you'll play in the B draw. I might travel you to this, or we'll host a tournament, whatnot. But every guy gets 15 or 16 matches in the fall, and I get to see good competition. And then every Thursday we would play in the 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10, 11, 12. And so 1 year or 2 years we had 16 guys. But they would play little 4-man draws on Thursdays. And a lot of times the bottom group, that was the opportunity to move up to the next group. The 12 through 15, they would move up to the next group. And the guys that were 7, 8, 9, 10, they had a chance to make the travel team or to move into the top 6. So that was how I knew who the next man was up. So they were getting good quality, meaningful matches every week, even though the starters didn't see that. I got to see that. So going into the spring, Thomas worked his way up to number 7. He beat our 4 from the year before, Alex Ludnovsky, who's a really strong player, and just on fitness, just out-toughed him. It was the 3rd match in 12 hours for both those guys, and Thomas was much stronger, one going away. So in the spring, while everybody else is playing, I'm giving Thomas the opportunity to jump into a match, maybe against Concord, he'll play number 3. Maybe against West Virginia State, I'll put him at 2. Maybe against Belmont Abbey, he'll get to play a really good guy in their JV team and move up. I would make sure that when no one was paying attention, Thomas was getting these good matches. Good level for him, good practice, meaningful. Hey, you get a chance to, beat a guy who was all conference last year. So when we got to the NCAA tournament, he was ready to play, in my estimation, because he was fit and he was challenged and he wasn't going to crap his pants. I'd seen him enough to know. And if you ever saw Thomas in high school, he could hit a volley on, from court 1 down to court 15. Whoops, just kind of missing the court there. He was a very focused, grinding guy, and I had no qualms at all. His first legit NCAA or match was in the NCAA tournament. Our number 2 player was out with an injury, and we moved everybody up. And I skipped over a senior. That was the year you guys beat us. Yep. I skipped over Pedro because Pedro lost to you guys because of fitness. And I just wasn't going to happen again. So we put Thomas in, and he won in 3 sets against a good player from a senior from West Liberty. And in the 3rd set, Thomas is on the sideline, doing jumping jacks. And, I asked him at one point to get his jump rope out while his opponent was throwing up against the fence and cramping up. So that's exactly why you put those guys out there. I don't need it to be a beauty contest. It's just mano a mano, who's gonna blink first. So willpower is 99% about what we need to have. You need to look to the left and right and know that both of those guys and that all 6 of the guys out there have committed and respect the effort that it's going to take, and that no one, you may lose, but no one's going to give anything away. And that's realistically what I'm asking every single player. Some guys just get to the program, they can see there's an opportunity there, but honestly, it's just too hard to give that extra 10 hours a week like Thomas did and maybe maintain the grades. I mean, the kid's going to med school. He's a no-brainer. But the other stereotype that was broken there was people would say, well, Walters isn't going to recruit you. You're an American. Not at all, man. I recruit players that have will and that say the right thing. I mean, Thomas is a home run, but only Thomas knows if he's going to be that guy that wants to give me that extra time. And that's every kid. Over 20 years, I've had a dozen or so that have made that kind of climb. And that's not a lot percentage. I mean, they all get better. But to get into that lineup is a special thing. I'm very proud of him. He's a great kid. Him and his brother both, and the family's very good.
So when you talk about guys like that, those are culture-changing type of guys. But in your situation, I think really that was already the culture. So when you get a player like McIntosh who comes in, that's the standard. So when he sees guys that are working hard already at the top, I think that's something that you talked about it a little bit. Some guys get there and they're like, I got to get better. I'm going to give 10 more hours. I'm going to give 5 more hours of fitness a week. And some guys go the opposite direction, based on time. Or you've seen this a lot. You get all kinds of different personalities and stuff like that.
I had a great time my freshman year. It was a $17,000 party. I loved my freshman year. What I remember of it, it was good fun.
Right. And guys like that change the culture, help the culture, continue on the culture and the legacy. When you talk about being a coach and creating that, how important to you is the fitness piece, both for you, like as a team and also extra hours? And you talked a little bit about it as well with Thomas, but the off-court practice hours, and not just that, but also the hours spent in the classroom, just all those things combined. What type of character do you think that builds in a kid, and how do you think that creates a winning atmosphere and makes their teammates better?
First off, Terry Derrimers of the world are very rare. I have this vision in my mind that Terry gets up at 4:30 in the morning and talks to the birdies and then goes out and runs 20 miles and then is on the court all day until midnight and does it again the next day. It's not too far from the truth. He's the 1%er type of guy that's why he's a professional level athlete. It just never occurred to him not to be working 24/7. On his off days, he would drive from the Greenbrier to Morgantown to teach lessons with people and stay connected there. 3-hour drive to see his family and he's a very dedicated professional guy. Like, he walks the walk and talks the talk, and he doesn't preach. He doesn't say to you, if you want to do this, you got to do that. The WVU camps that we used to teach, middle of July, easy 100 degrees on the court. And he has top 10 players coming back to teach the camp. But then from 11:30 to 1 p.m., while the rest of us, or 11 to 1 rather, while the rest of us are at the cafeteria eating our lunch and getting out of the sun, his players were out there hitting on their own for an hour and a half hard. And they would come and sneak in the last 15 minutes of lunch and get that food, and then go back out and spend another 4 hours on the court with the kids. And at the time, I just didn't respect that. I didn't have any idea. I knew it was hard. I was like, whoa, man, these guys are good. But, man, they had to be miserable to do that. And that level of discipline and dedication to each other, but they're inside, they're loving it. And if you can find those guys that love that misery, the Ramon Rodriguez's of the world, those are the guys that I mean, you build an entire program around that kind of mentality. A true leader or a captain, I've had very few captains on my team. You know, if you ask Ramon why he wasn't a captain, he will give you some reasons. But Lucas Leipold, you can't find a better person. But Lucas isn't really a captain. His closest guy to a captain on that team would probably be Thomas, and he was the number 5, 6, 7 player and wasn't even in the lineup the first year. The guys that are leaders care deeply about the team. They never break a rule, and they make great decisions for everybody. And they have the coaches back and the players back, and can communicate back and forth without losing anybody's respect. That's really hard to ask an 18, 19, 20-year-old to do. I don't choose captains for the sake of being a captain. The best captain I've ever had was a girl named Sarah Cameron from my girls' team. She's
at Wesleyan?
At Wesleyan. Physical therapy school, basketball player. So her dad put her through all kinds of hell as a junior athlete, screaming and yelling at her. There was nothing a coach could say to her that was too tough. So whenever the girls started to get a little weak-minded or whatever, she'd just turn around and, slap them and say, hey, shut up, what's wrong? She had ultimate respect. She had her teammates back. There were a couple times when rules were broken, and she actually took the fall for her teammates because she knew that would be bad for them, and she covered up for them, and then brought it to me and said, hey, this is what happened. That takes a special kind of character to know the right thing to do all the time, to be the adult in the room. So, I was 18, and I would never want a coach's job depending upon my decisions that I made at that time. I would have gotten every coach I ever had fired.
So you talk a little bit about, never breaking a rule and being, caring more about the team than yourself. I mean, to be the captain, you really have to. What are some of your rules, even if they're unwritten, that you really kind of a creed that you stand by that's very important for a team to succeed? Not just winning on the court, but just to be a team and have that camaraderie and things to be successful.
Consistency is the hardest part. I mean, you got it from our junior programming days. I was actually able to develop some pretty good junior players that were only on the court 3 days a week. But the reason was I was there every Sunday night, every Tuesday, every Thursday. They knew tennis was going on. The teams, they may complain about Sunday night, running at 6 a.m. on Friday morning. Well, why do you do that? Because Thursday night's a party night. Everybody knows that. Once you're so damn tired by Friday afternoon that midnight Friday, you probably go to bed anyway. You get Saturday night, woohoo, good for you. Then Sunday, we're going to run again at 7 p.m., and then we're going to do it again on Tuesday morning and Thursday night. So we're going to have these turnarounds that are really tough. At first, your kids complain about it, but after a couple of weeks, it's just what you do. You set that schedule up in a way that they can adjust and get to it. What was the actual point that I'm supposed to be making?
So basically the point I'm saying for you is some of your team rules that you really think that you stand by as a coach and that you never want to break and that are vital to success.
I don't have team rules or a contract that my team writes down. I think that's hypocritical because in the end, I play favorites. There's case-by-case basis. Alex, if you've been a 4.0 student for me for 4 years, if you have worked your butt off in every single workout, you've never missed a practice, you want to come to me and say, hey, coach, can I miss practice today? I've got a biochem final tomorrow, and I really want to go to the review and get a good night's sleep. I'll come and work out on my own with you tomorrow at any time, but I'm going to be absolutely, man. But if you're that sketchy 3.0 guy who's just kind of cruising through and, some days you work hard, some days, I might be like, no, I really need you to be at practice today. You should have managed your time better. Let's do it. I know what you're doing in your off time. That's not fair to player B, maybe, that player A got the leave. But do what player A is doing. You know, you want to say I'm playing favorites? Absolutely. Your boss that you work for is going to play favorites as well. Don't drink in public. Kids are college kids. Some of them are legal age drinking. I drink. I just don't do it in public, and I'm not going to do it in a way that's going to jeopardize me from a driving standpoint or from an image standpoint. That's the decision I make every time I go out in public. I need these guys to be aware of that, and girls to, don't go to a party wearing your tennis t-shirt. I mean, come on. Don't go to Morgantown advertising that you're a tennis player for my school. Be honest. I don't want any 2 a.m. phone calls. I don't want any legal issues. You're off the team. If you test positive, forget about it. I kicked one kid off the team 5 or 6 years ago at Wesleyan who got caught with marijuana, a very small amount, but he got caught with it. He wanted to go to med school. I kicked him off the team 3 weeks into it and said, "Hey, you got bigger problems here. You're not right for my program." And it was a walk-on kid, American kid. It just was not right for what we do. So, those are things that I just don't have time for. And once your kids know it and they see it that you don't have time for it, talent does not give you a free pass. Addition by subtraction. If this is what you got caught doing, you're doing a lot of other stuff too. It's very unlikely, well, the first time I did it, I got caught. That's not how it's working. So I think for all coaches out there, you probably said this to your teams in some way, shape, or form. Look around the room before you start doing something that you probably wouldn't want me to know about. If there's one person in that room that is not on your team or would die for you, then you don't have control of what's going on, because that person will tell that person and that person will tell the AD, and pretty soon it's not a secret. You can have fun and you can have those good bonding times. Just don't ever let it affect a practice. Don't even think about letting it affect a match. Don't let it affect your productivity or academics. And don't let it affect the respect that you have of your teammates, because nobody else in the world may know that Joey was out drinking last night. But guess what? Now we're in a match and it's in the third set, and you're on court 2 wondering if Joey's going to make it through his third set because he's about to throw up. And you're the only guy that knows it, but your mind isn't right because your guy's weak down there. All 6 guys have to be a unified front. And the kids that are trying to get into that lineup, when they see that, why is that guy playing and not that guy? Because I trust that kid. Kiralu, who was freshman of the year in our conference last year, he was at 6 for a while. He earned that spot. But clearly he was not mentally ready to assume the pressure that Thomas already had he'd been through the wars. So Christos lost an opportunity at Edinburgh. The next day we plugged in Thomas at Mercyhurst, and tough 3-setter. Thomas showed Christos what finishing strong looks all about. And, we learned. We were a better team for that weekend, even though it was a horrible weekend for us.
Do you care to speak on a little bit about what it's like, mentally to be at 7 or 8 guy, that you're right there and you're trying so hard? I know you said in your previous one, you kind of were that guy at Fairmont. I was also that guy at Fairmont at the end of my career. I was playing a little 7, a little 8, and kind of working my way in and getting mixed around. What do you think it's like for some of those guys that when you've got a big roster, especially? We didn't have a huge roster at Fairmont, but being that guy and rooting for your teammate at 6, loving that guy, but you're trying to take his spot, man. What do you think that mentally that makes you tougher? Or
I think you know this, being a guy who was in the lineup with not even a second thought. Yeah, I'm playing.
Yeah, yep.
And the next day you're not. Coach White, I was the number 6 guy at Fairmont and had a whole year at 5 and 6. I won. I was a good player at that level. By the way, dude, I was a horrible player at my level. I would never be in the top 14 on any of the teams that I've had. I was not good. I didn't even learn how to volley or hit a real grips until Terry showed me. I got out of college. Fun fact, the first day Terry let me go feed balls to Marc Boris. Marc was a freshman. He was working on his volleys. I went down and started to feed him. And after 5 minutes, this is one of my most embarrassing moments. I was so excited. I'm getting to work with Marc Boris. Holy shit. Walk down there, start feeding him some balls. After about a minute, he walks up and he goes, hey, Marc, can you maybe feed a little flatter? Give me some balls a little flatter just down at my feet. I'm like, okay. And because he was trying to hit long volleys. I couldn't do it. I was hitting with a Western grip, feeding balls to him. It was obvious to Mark I didn't know what I was doing. And so a couple minutes go by. He walks up and goes, "Hey, man, I'm just going to serve some. It's cool. You can go ahead and take off. I'll just serve and get out of here." I did not have feed. I thought I was a coach. I couldn't feed a ball. So Terry showed me what was up, told me, "Here's a basket. There's 4 targets, and don't come back until you can hit those targets." I mean, that's humbling, but that's how bad I was. So, when you talk about not knowing your level, being the 5 and 6 and 7 guy, I didn't know how bad I was. They think just because they have one good day or that they proved it one time, they think that's done. That maybe they own it. You got to live that life of the 5, 6, 7, 8 person, constantly trying to get in there and holding it. And if the guys at 5 and 6 really want it, they're going to end up at 2, 3, and 4, maybe even number 1. I've had that kind of development track. Guys that have played Hokobo Rendon starts at 2, finishes at 5. Maybe he started at 6, moved to 4, then to 2, then back down. The level of talent may change, but your experience every year should make the difference in you moving up, because you're going to get some matches against the young dumb freshman guys. You'll get some wins there because they just can't finish. They just don't know how to do it, and you do. And that's the experience that you take into your college matches as well. But because I was there, Craig White, I call him Egg White, he made me play a challenge match with BJ when BJ first showed up. Young freshman, I was a senior, not in the best shape in August, and we played a hot day. I beat him 3 and 2. I'll never forget it. It's a long, hard 3 and 2. And I was like, why isn't this kid just giving up, man? I'm beating him. Why? I was kind of a douche to him, too. I wasn't very nice to him. The next day, Whitey hands me a can of balls and goes, "Hey, go play BJ again, challenge match." I was like, "Coach, I just beat him yesterday. What the hell?" And he goes, "Go play him." 0 and 1. BJ destroyed me. I was fat and out of shape. I couldn't move. He knew that BJ could play 7 days in a row and still be, 18. And I was old. So right there, he sent me the message that what you did yesterday doesn't help me if you can't do it today. And I have got Harry Simmerford is a good player. Harry can play number 1. He can play number 6 in my lineup. First 2 years, I didn't trust Harry. So he always caught the position on our team where I knew he'd either win or he'd lose. There was no in between. I didn't give him any 50-50 matches the first 2 years. It's just the nature of the beast. I want 4 locks going out there in my mind when we play a match. That way, whoever has a bad day, we don't get that point. We still have 3 out there that we should get. And then I got maybe 50-50 on the other 2 guys. You never know. But we're never going to give a match away. So those guys at the bottom, you got to treat them with honor and respect and get them repetitions. You have to constantly let them know what their role is. But you got to remind them when they start to lose the focus a little bit or they drop off. You got to remind them, hey, do you really want this? Because you watch that Jordan documentary when he said to Roy Williams, "I want to be the best player in the history of UNC." Roy Williams said, "Wait, whoa, you just said you want to be the best player ever. This is what you got to do." And it was that next level kind of thing. And it's not glamorous and it's not fun. And man, it's a real psychological grind to know that your job's never safe. But I mean, I need you to win tomorrow. If you've been through psychological hell with me, like I put Harry through the grinder for 2 years. And you ask him, he'll tell you, I was not nice to him. I constantly reminded him what his flaws were. Ferran Berga constantly reminded Ferran what he couldn't do or has not done or hasn't achieved or why he's not winning or why he hasn't done this. And Ferran didn't love tennis. He didn't like tennis. He loved competing. He loved showing me I was wrong. That's not a very good way to motivate. That's the last stage. But hey, Ferran might win a match against a good player. And I'll go, yeah, but you haven't won a 3-setter yet. Okay, and then the next time he wins a 3-setter, I'll go, yeah, but you haven't won a clinching 3-setter yet. All right, well, you haven't won a tiebreaker yet. He gets so pissed. There was one match at UDC where I walked out on the court. We'd already won the match. but it was his first chance to win a 3-set match against a ranked team. And he's 3-2, third set, laid out on the court. The match has been like 4 hours long. The other guy was a bigger grinder than he was. And I just walked out and I said, yeah, I figured you'd be cramping up by now. I didn't think you were in that very good shape. This guy's better shape than you. Let's just get out of here, man. Let's just go. And he was like, he told me to F off and said, you get off my court. So I walked over to the side, and every time Ferran was out of breath or made an error, I went, yeah, here it comes. Here it comes. Here's the choke. I did that for 15, 20 minutes. He finally wins 7-6 in the third, wins the match, goes up, shakes the guy's hand, comes over to me. 2 words, you can guess what they were, and walked to the van with Ramon. And the other 2 guys looked at me and said, Coach, he's getting better. And we just walked away. I mean, that whole trip was significant for that. That was the year that Ferran went 24-2, lost to Martín Moncayo 6-0-6-1 at Charleston at the indoor, and then beat him 3-2 in a 3-hour match at the conference championship. The next year, Ferran was out of the lineup, but that was at number 4. He had one, and he was just, that 1 year was, Coach, I'll show you what I can do. It was just really hard for him to sustain it.
Definitely. It's not for the faint of heart, like you said, man. It's gritty, it's bloody, and it's not glamorous, especially, at a smaller school level, D2, NAI, D3, JUCO. You do it a lot more for the love of the game. It's funny you talk about Ferran, man, because dude was gritty. He was not fun to play. He wasn't fun to watch play sometimes either, but he was such a competitor, man. When you talk about all these things, kind of all of this leads up to camaraderie, So for you guys as a team, in the Atlantic region, I think you guys were second to none as far as a culture. I really do believe that, and I'm not just saying that for the camera. When it comes to camaraderie and just being a team that people look like they wanted to be a part of, it looked like a family. How did that come into play when you talk about the 4 most important days of the season, regionals, conference? How do you think that bond kept you guys together and allowed you guys to stay strong in the tough moments?
I just don't think there's any consistently good programs that don't have just a way they do things. And for the freshmen coming in, that's vital, because I've forgotten more tennis than I remember. I'm counting on the juniors and seniors that don't necessarily like doing, trust me, those guys don't like playing those challenge tournaments at the beginning of the year. They're every Saturday and Sunday, they're completely miserable. And they're like, Coach, why are we doing this? Blah, blah, blah every year. But they understand at the end of the year how that team came into focus, the roles that were developed, and how what you call culture. I just call it, getting ready for April. Hey, we had a great win in February. Super. All that means is we might be peaking too early. Let's not get too excited. Let's taper it out a little bit. Having those unwritten policies and the cultural rules, they take care of themselves once you get it on the tracks and going. You got to have great kids. You can't have kids that are great for 6 months and then fall off and do their own thing. They have to love each other. And that's that I always make my kids stay in the low end housing, the lowest housing on campus, and they roomed with another tennis player. I have to have accountability from both guys. If you're falling off, I want your roommate, hey, how's Alec doing? He's doing okay, man. He's studying, everything seems to be okay. Hey, Alec, how's Mark doing? I don't know, man. He's a little depressed lately. He's been sleeping a lot. I'm not sure he went to class yesterday.
He's partying a lot. No, I'm kidding.
You just got to get that feedback, and you have to spend a lot of time with those guys in the first 6 months. The first semester, I'm all over them. I'll rock up to somebody the second day of practice during a stretch, kick them in the foot and go, Alec, what's your GPA right now? Second day of class, what's your GPA right now? And, kids will look at me like, Coach, we just started. I said, that's not the answer. The answer is you have a 4.0 right now. Every time I ask you that question this semester, you should tell me to the point what your GPA is. Because if you're aware of it, it matters to you. If you tell me I'm doing good or I'm fine, I know that's BS, because that's what I said to my dad when I was making a 1.8. Okay and fine means, well, I haven't really gotten graded on anything, so I think I'm doing okay. Or that one, I got off to a slow start with that chem test. I got 60, but I feel like I'm doing better now. That's just putting stuff off. I hate to say grades are that important, but from an accountability standpoint, that's our culture, you know, and if I'm grade conscious, so be it. You're going to be graded in life on so many things that no one's going to come up to you and say, hey, you're slacking a little bit. You know, they may pat you on the back and say, I need this done tomorrow. But if it doesn't come to their desk tomorrow, you know, that's a point against you. You just don't know it. So from a management standpoint, when you have a lot of players and you got 90% of them walking the straight line, it's so easy to take those other one or two guys and kind of pound them down into the hole, because it may not make sense every day of the year. But when you get to those last 4 days, every single thing we did for a year makes perfect sense to a freshman. Harry was not in our lineup steady until conference championship. Thomas, Alex Ludnowski, and Harry were rotating 4, 5, and 6, and 7 because those guys, 5, 6, and 7. I was rotating them because I didn't trust Harry's knees, Harry's grades, Harry's emotion. Alex was out of shape and trying to work his way back in because he had lost to Thomas. If anybody was being punished in that rotation, it was Thomas, because he had the most experience and had worked the hardest. So I was making sure that every time we had a big match, Thomas got a rep. But in the meantime, Harry and Alex were getting reps too, enough for me to kind of see who was rising to the top. You know, you can't have 3 really good days and then come to me on the 4th day and go, hey, my knee's kind of sore. That's what? Your knee's kind of sore? You must not be able to handle it right now. I don't want to have you out there in a match telling me your knee's sore. Oh, no, coach, that's not what I'm saying. So Harry had to learn how to deal with being uncomfortable. And the thing that really mattered to him at the end most is, if you're struggling academically, when's that going to be the most stressful? April 20th. Finals are coming up that next week, and we got to go play a conference championship tournament. There's just too much stuff on your plate. If you don't have your crap in order before we leave and get in the van, then you're not going to be 100% there for your teammates.
Coach, one thing I really respect about you and your program is the emphasis on academic excellence. And one thing I'm going to bring up here that you probably don't even remember, it's going to be really funny. I still have an email from you whenever I was in high school and I was interested in coming to Wesleyan. Now, you might not remember this, but
I hope I wasn't too arrogant.
As a high school kid, I was like, this guy's crazy, man, because I think I had like a 3.9 GPA. I was top 25, National Honor Society, all that. I think I'm smart, and I think I'm a great tennis player, all that. And you didn't really know me, but you emailed back, and the one thing that really stuck with me, you said, if you're coming in as a freshman, as a walk-on, you need to have a 3.5 GPA, or 3.75, I think. I'd have to look.
It was a 3.5 before you can come talk to me about being put on the roster.
Yeah, I was like, I got to have a 3.5 GPA in college to even be on the team.
Look, that's a little bit, Hitlerish, I guess. But
no.
You have to understand that realistically, your opportunities to be in that lineup that first year with our depth and our talent was you were going to be a peripheral guy. And, the Thomases, McIntoshes of the world, if there's other things on their plate besides the ability to focus on their tennis and they can't handle those things, I won't know it until it's too late. And I don't want somebody I don't want to put you on a roster and see that you just dragged our team GPA down 0.2 of a point. Because our team GPA, we were the first and second. When I got there, women's cross country won it every year. Women's swimming was second. Women's tennis and men's tennis were middle of the pack. Men's tennis was actually in the top 3, or I guess 3 or 4. But women's tennis, we had a shaky academic program there for some of the girls bringing it down. Good, we had some great kids there, but we also had some bottom dwellers. And you got to get that straightened out, man. If you're a tennis team and you're not first or second every year in academics, then something's wrong. It's not me pushing them. It's just the quality of the person that you're bringing in. Alec, you would have been terrific there at Wesleyan. Wesleyan's a great school. You would have hit it out of the park. But I don't know what you're going to be like. I don't know enough about your party time. I don't know enough about your dedication, your girlfriends. And, these international kids, no offense to Americans, they don't know the difference between Duke and Wesleyan. So when they come here, they are guests in our country, and they're trying to learn the language. They're on pins and needles all the time about, did I get that right? Am I hearing that right? They don't want to offend anybody that first one or couple years until they get Americanized. I'm not dealing with any parents. I'm not dealing with any, I know that person and I know that person and I know that person. It's just straight tennis, straight academics. And they're humbling because they're most cases, they're giving the same or less money to come over and get this experience than I offer to some of the American kids. Because American kids are offended if you don't give them a half scholarship or I think I should be playing in the top 3. I was an arrogant butthole when I talked to Coach White in his office. I know I was. Oh, I'll be your number 1 or 2 player. Crap, I barely was in the lineup for a team that wouldn't be in our top 8 in the region right now. So it's just a different way of looking at it. But do I offend some player? I know I've probably offended the Leo family. I probably offended you. There are people that looked at Wesleyan seriously. If you love that school, it's a great school. And go to the school for the school. But if you want to be part of my tennis program, I'm going to treat you like dirt. There's going to be black mornings and black nights, and I'm going to paint the darkest picture I can of what you've got to give to me before I'm ever going to hand you the keys to go play a tennis match for us. And once I know that, I can sleep at night knowing that my team's not going to be acting out or that we're going to do something embarrassing on a tennis court. That Harry went through a year where Miken's yelling at him from 2 courts down. Harry, shut up. I'm trying to play tennis match. I mean, you got to – Harry, and that's just the way he played. And listen, he was still way over the top for me, but he was 1,000 times better by the conference tournament, and he was 1,000 times better than that the next year. He's right now – he came in here and kicked my ass this year at playing number 2 against my team in my building after driving 12 hours. And I was so proud of him. He looked over at me a couple of times because he was just grinding and hitting balls and never opened his mouth. I think my guy hooked him once and he just kind of shrugged and just whooped us. I loved it, man. That's the proud papa time when you get to see that.
Yeah. And I think, academically, you're holding people accountable. And like you said before, man, you're going to get a job. Tennis isn't going to be the end all be all for most players at our level. So, you're holding people accountable because if you have a boss and you're not, you're getting poor performance reviews, then you're probably going to get fired or you're never going to get a promotion, right? So teaching people how to, like you said, taking them through the mud, treating them like dirt, that's kind of the real world. So, you toughen someone up like that, 4 years. Talk about Harry, his senior year, he's tough as nails. He's matches that he could win as a senior, he might have lost as a freshman because mentally or physically or whatever else, he wasn't strong enough.
You mentioned something right there. I think it's pretty rare at our level of Division II to have a boss that is looking at your win-loss or your one-loss record. It just doesn't happen. I mean, I think when as a young coach, I thought that was going to impress a lot of people. But I got jobs because my team stayed out of trouble and we had great grades. And we had, 3 consecutive years in a row. The last 2 years I was at Kearney, and the year after I left, we had the graduation speaker at each graduation. They were one of my tennis players that I had brought in that first group. They were the valedictorian speakers. That's crazy. That's the quality of kid that those guys were. And dumb luck. I didn't know what I was doing with recruiting. Hey, you got the money? Great. You look great. Academics, great. Come on in and be on my team. Like I say, you get the quality out of those kids sometimes as a gift. Don't take it for granted, man. Every now and then pull somebody aside, pat them on the back and go, hey, man, I haven't said it lately, but man, I really appreciate what you do for me. And, whatever, anything you need, let me know. I write a mean letter of recommendation, and I love it. Every time I get to write a letter for some kid, I hope it brings a tear to their eye when they read it.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that too, because whenever Kyle wrote me mine to get into grad school, but when I went to the University of Houston for one semester, I remember being in class and seeing, Kyle Hoffman, letter of recommendation. This should be good. I open it and I'm just like, I got to leave the room for a second because it was special. And I think he was just really proud of me as a person, and I think that's, you talk about getting to see a kid be the valedictorian at graduation that you've seen grow from a baby bird to, they're going to fly now in the last 4 years. Seeing them get to speak and how they've grown, it's something I look forward to as a young coach. And, we actually had a couple at Fairmont. I wasn't one of them. I did graduate with honors. I was not the valedictorian though. For you, Coach, changing gears just a little bit here, how important is the scheduling aspect to, changing the culture as far as just going in and you want to play the best and you want to beat the best teams to solidify where you're at. Because I think for me, watching our team evolve at Fairmont, when Kyle got there, even my sophomore year, his first year when we really weren't very good yet, we had a lot of the same cast with a couple new pieces. Kyle takes us on spring break and we're playing a couple D1 schools. We're playing a solid D3 school. And we're like, Coach, you trying to get us killed out here, man? And he's like, no, I want to see how good you guys are. Like
Southern Colorado, 0-5 first weekend.
Exactly. How do you think that starts to change your team's mentality? Like, Coach he really thinks we can go out and beat these guys or even play with these guys, He thinks we're that kind of team. We got that kind of caliber.
I think Louis Belk called me. I was on the national ranking committee and the regional ranking committees, and Louis had some really good results every year. He beat a few Carolina teams, and he just at one point he's like, Mark, how the hell is this team ranked and we're not ranked yet? Or we start in there, we drop out. He's what am I doing? What do we got to do? And I said, Louis, they're not going to come play up here. He was bitching. I think he was bitching about Wingate coming to his place or something like that. I said, Louis, look, you've got the guys, man. Take them down to Florida. Take them down to South Carolina, and just take a week, jump from campus to campus, and play those teams. And you need to get your teams exposed to them. I think they'll be great, but it won't be fair. It's not going to be fair. You're going to be traveling. You're going to be beat up. You're going to be playing 6 or 7 national level teams in an 8-day span when they're only playing 1 or 2 matches at home, in that same time. It's going to be incredibly stacked against you, but you got to do it, because until you beat them at their place, you won't get their respect. I'm like that guy in Gin Rummy who holds those 7-card runs until the very end and throws it down. When I schedule, I know other coaches have to hate scheduling with me. Yeah, I'll call you back, or I'll get right back to you on that. I wait until the very last minute until I see those fall rankings, and once I see who's ranked, then I know that's where my points are. So I pick that list and I figure out what weekends can I go down and catch 2 or 3 of these teams. Not the top 10, not the 15 teams. I mean, I might catch a match with those here and there, maybe even in my conference like I do now. But the really important matches are the teams from 30 to 60 that are getting rankings points. And now that the computer's in, it's super huge. But I just understood that to beat somebody, you got to beat them, and then you got to make it stand. I can't, what killed us last year, we should have been 30 in the country on the computer, but the loss in the weekend to Edinburgh, that was a really dumb move on my part to play that match. But it was a great competitive college tennis match, and it made us better at the end of the year. But at the same time, we finished 50, which was a nice surprise that we got back in there. We had 3 quality wins over the course of the season that got us up there. And, I like to think that I'm a program that we may not beat a lot of great people, but I don't like to say I've only lost 3 matches that I can remember in my career that we lost to a team that I thought was inferior. No offense. The year we lost to you guys at Fairmont.
I knew it was going to be one of them.
Well, but you guys seized the opportunity. The real factor in that was you had freshmen and you served out the doubles, which was really great. We had leads in the other 2 doubles and, let one of them get away. And then Guy played the match of his life at 3 against Ramon. Ramon was playing great up to that point too. It was just a great day for him. And then at number 6, we had a guy out, and Tom Liddy was balls that day. So, the quality of the level of the tennis wasn't the greatest, but you could say that about my team every day we go out there. I don't care if my guy's playing 11 UTR level against you. You play girls 12s, as far as I'm concerned, as long as we can keep the ball in play and show that all the running that we're doing, that's the reason, we're prepared to play. So that match reinforced. I don't think we win conference or regionals the way we did if I don't know that Thomas is the right choice. And that came from seeing our weaknesses. And then Chowan, we lost a Chowan match one time because I just coached doubles wrong. We won 4 of the 6 singles matches, but we got swept in doubles. And it was just a bad move on my part where I thought we were the better team, but we lost. Of course, we drove 9 hours to get there, jumped out of the van and played, which is what you got to do. The next day, we beat Belmont Abbey. And then on the Sunday, through back-to-back matches, our first 3 days outside, we lost 5-4 at Chowan when they were top 30. The next day we beat Belmont Abbey when they were 32, 5-4. And then the next day after that, we beat Mount Olive 5-4 when they were 19 in the country. And all three of these matches were just our first weekend. It was February 20th, I remember it. They'd all had, it was our first outdoor matches, and each of those teams had played 6 or 7 times already. So that shows me that the team is prepared. I told Louis, go down and play these teams. I don't know that he won maybe one match that first year, but then he's beaten Flagler and Florida Tech and Florida Southern and, going 5-4 with the Berries and the Rollinses of the world. At some point, you're going to beat somebody and they're going to go, instead of saying Flagler had a bad day, why don't we notice that Louis played 6 matches in 7 days and just beat Flagler 7-2 at their home courts when Flagler's only played 1 match in a week and just beat the number 2 team in the country? Why don't we give Bluefield some credit? So when I got on the national rankings committee, Louis brought those wins back from Louis, they called me from the van coming back one year when they had a win. Might have been the Flagler match. And Jacob Carey was just over the moon about, hey, coach, guess what we just did? Man, I cried for him. You'll cry a lot when you get to be my age, Alec. You cry about everything. Babies in commercials and, Field of Dreams. I cry at the end all the time. So anyway, I was really happy for him. You talk about regional camaraderie. If people saw me and Louis coaching against each other, you would just assume that our teams don't get along. And the first time I ever coached against Louis was at Virginia Tech. I think he didn't trust me. I think he thought I was probably some kind of, try to get over on him or do this. But in the end, I liked his team better than I liked my team. I didn't like my guys. That was that weekend I was killing them all to set them up to lose to Charleston. So the bottom line is, unless Louis and I and Matt Santon and Sam McCullough, unless we get along, we can't work together in scheduling and in team reputation. We had a very poor reputation nationally as a region that follows the rules, behaves correctly, treats people with respect, and has good experience. 1 or 2 guys on your team, 1 guy on your team can ruin it for everybody else. If you go to some place and some guy shows his ass, that's what they're going to remember about your team. Even if you beat them, they're going to use that as an excuse against you. So you got to keep your mouth shut and just grind a little bit. Terry's teams had to do that at WVU for a lot of years. Those Ivy schools treated them very disrespectful, and he just had to shut up and play, because anything they would do when they opened their mouth would just fuel the fire of those guys saying they were low class or didn't belong. And I've gotten payback 1,000,000 times because of just the fact that they respect my opinion. I also can't go into those rankings meetings and say, hey, we deserve to be number 30 because we beat the number 19 team. Yeah, but you just lost to the number 60 team. Yeah, but I can't be like that. I have to, if someone asks me, is my team better than this team? I have to say, no, I don't think so. I don't think we deserve to be in there. For 2 years in a row, I said Louis' team needed to be at 30-40. Then it was 20-30. And each time they would listen to me and put them about 5 or 10 spots lower than I said. By the 3rd year, Brett Simpson, who's at Lander, who's a good friend, Brett's like, Marc, what do you think about Bluefield? And I'm like, legit, 25. They're legit. I think they should definitely be in there somewhere between 25 and 30. And when the rankings came out, I think they were 28. And at that point, if I'm out there every meeting crying wolf and saying how good our teams are, or if we haven't proved it or don't deserve it, then we're never going to get those teams looked at. The next year, the computer rankings started. And when that happened, it didn't matter. Louis did it on his own. Those guys earned those spots. When we get a national ranking, I know we earned it on the court.
Absolutely important conversation, to talk about regional camaraderie, coaches in the region helping other coaches. Because like you said, man, if every coach in the region is trying to get one up on each other, then the region as itself doesn't develop and advance. It takes a lot more than just Coach Walters at Wesleyan crying wolf for the Atlantic region or, pleading his case. It takes a lot more than just you and a lot more than just a couple people. So I think as we look at, advancing our region, growing our region, we're all on the same team in at least one way, right? So when Wesleyan looks good, Bluefield looks good, it helps us at Salem.
In the Midwest that year, I told you we were in the last talk, we talked about getting Kearney ranked One year we were 20-4, and all of our losses were to top 15 teams. One of the losses was to a Division I. We lost to UNL, but we beat. I won't say the team because I love the guy. He's a great guy. He's been very helpful to me. But we beat him at home. He was ranked 8th in the country when we beat him at home. We beat him at his place when he was ranked 19th in the country. And this was the second and the third ranked team in the region at the time out of 13 teams. And we weren't ranked. And then we beat him at home, and we moved into the rankings at number 12, and he was 11. Okay, but nationally, he was 25, and we weren't in there. All right, so they only did 2 national rankings, one at March 1st, and then one at the very end. So we beat him twice, and we were behind him. So after the NCAA ranking came out, we moved up. In the NCAA tournament, we lost to a team that was above him, and he won his first round match at a different regional and made the round of 32. His team moved right into 25. We were 26, so we weren't published in the national rankings. We beat him twice, straight up. That's when I knew, look, man, it's important for those coaches to see their name in those rankings for recruiting, for recognition. And man, when you're recruiting against 110 teams in your region, those rankings were political. But, once you get in the club and you do the right things, people listen to you. And I've taken that with me with how to treat other coaches and programs all the way. I've screwed up sometimes. Like I said, I got a few letters in my file that I learned from. And both those coaches that wrote those letters, I count them as good friends and references and people that would go to bat for me. So that I learned.
Coach, before we kind of close things up here, do you have really any other lasting advice or tips, for young coaches that are trying to break in and move up through, in our case, Division II, but just really trying to move up the ranks? And it doesn't specifically have to be towards me, but I think I'm taking this advice, pretty important, from a guy like you who's done it before. And, you got college players who I'm sure are looking to get GAs right out of college and looking to kind of work their way up. What's some advice you have, just simple, or it can be a little bit more elaborate?
Well, it's me, it's going to be elaborate.
Yep. Okay.
I think you just need to know who you are. Nikola Angelich, when I coached at Barton, Nikola was one of the first guys I got there. Now, you're a college kid, you can respect this. Nikola he came from a humble family in Serbia, great mom and dad. When I say he was the hardest working guy I've ever had, it's the hardest working guy I ever had. He loved to think he was a number 1 or 2 baller, but he was a 5 or 6 dirt ball grinder, 5-hour guy. And he never, ever gave less than 100%, ever. Practice, conditioning, he was immaculate across the board. He's a captain, and he could tell his teammates too, and they would do what he wanted. When I went to West Virginia, as the minute Nikola graduated, I called and said, I want you to be my assistant coach. And he was like, okay, why? I said, because you're the role model. I know that you'll have my back. Everything I ask you to do, you'll do it and then some. Do you love tennis? This is what you want to do with your life, and that you're opinionated, but you just don't rub people the wrong way. If you tell somebody they're not working hard, they're not going to go, oh, it's Nikola. Yeah, he works really hard. He knows what that looks like. So Nikola is a whole level better person than I am. When you are going to be somebody's assistant, have people make sure that coach can trust you. It is you and the coach in a united front. You can be sympathetic with players, but you got to be the company line. You can't backstab your coach in any way, shape, or form, or weaken his authority. You will take things that coach says and go, man, that's genius. That's good experience. I'm going to use that when I coach. There's also going to think things that coach does or doesn't do, or that ways he handles things that you'll go, I don't think I'll do that way when I get to where, Lane Kiffin doesn't do what Nick Saban does. But they worked together side by side for 2.5 years and had some pretty damn good teams. But you could see on the sideline, those guys were a little bit, they had to get used to it. Right. But I guarantee you they handled their players exactly the same way. So Nicola came in. He's single-handedly responsible for developing Monique Burton from a West Virginia high school player into a legit college top 3 player in Power 5. Yeah, I mean, we talked about Houston. That was the best win in the history of my team, beating a top 40 team on a neutral court. Monique was the clinching match at number 2 singles. This is a girl that wasn't even close to being in our lineup freshman year. You know, but she worked. Her ethic was terrific, and Nicola spent countless hours on the court with her. The thing that Nicola said that resonated with me midway through my 3rd year at West Virginia, I turned around and asked him his opinion on something, and he stopped typing and he looked at me and he said, "Coach, in the 7 years I've known you, you've never asked me what I think. You've always done it your way. He said, that's the first time you ever asked my opinion on something, and we're sincere about it." And he said, I think you're growing as a coach. And it was true, because I thought back on it, and I've been very dictatorial about the way I did things. Part of that was just paranoia, that I didn't want to disappoint people, or, you know, if I give out a little bit of a, you know, rope to somebody, that they'll hang me with it. You know, but Nicola really helped me as a coach that day, because ever since then, I don't know everything. I don't know much. You know, Terry Derrimer has, you know, I've got this much knowledge in my body compared to what he's got. He's forgotten more tennis than I'll ever know. So when I go to deal with players, if I can say I don't know, I actually gain respect with those players. I don't know, but I'll find out. Or I don't know, but let's see how this works. Or I've never had that situation before. Something comes up every year I've never dealt with. Every year something comes up. And you learn from it, you go with it, but you handle it with consistency emotionally and consistency policy-wise, but you make sure that you take in everybody's 2 cents before you make your ultimate decision. As an assistant or as a new coach going in, don't be afraid to say you don't know, because first off, it's going to show people you're human and that you're not a BSer. I'm sure I BS'd my way out of a ton of stuff and thought I got away with stuff, and people would walk away from that conversation and go, he's full of it. You know, and still am.
Really, really great stuff there, Coach Marc. Thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for doing 2 parts. I think we got a lot of information out there, and like me and you joked about before, I think we could talk for 5 times the amount of time and still not get bored. Both these hours went by really quick, in my opinion, at least. Hopefully for you as well. Thanks for coming on, man. Love to have you back anytime. Tell your boy Louie, let's get him on soon. Love to talk with him.
Oh,
I know Coach Otis, I think, messaged him, but need all the support I get there. Again, thank you. And anything else you have left to say?
No, I'm glad you didn't get me talking too much about kids graduating and just characters and leave. Listen, every time I've left the program, I never left because I turned this job down twice before I took it. It wasn't the right fit for me at the time, and I didn't want to leave my other team. So even though it's apples and oranges, you know, you have to be connected to your kids, or else you're not giving them the best you've got to give. And every time I've left, it has been ugly cry. Ask Brandon Simmons was the first person I told that I was going to WVU from Barton. And that team was all juniors. They were a national level team, and they were all juniors. I told Brandon face to face, drove and saw him and said, look, I'm leaving. I didn't even get it out of my mouth. I'm starting to get emotional now. It's ugly cry time, man. If you don't feel like that for your players and your program, then you might not be in the right line of business. Really, really good stuff to end on, Coach. I'll leave it at that. That's incredible. Thank you, Coach. All right, buddy. Take care. You too.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right.